Hello guys, welcome back. My name's Nathan, and today I'm going to be making my best NHL left wing tier list. Now in the NHL right now, there's a lot of solid and quite frankly elite talent at left wing. A lot of guys that have been producing amazingly in the past few years. But who do I see as the best left wingers in the NHL right now, and where does every left winger place in my tier rankings? Watch till the end to find out. Now for today's left wing tier list, I'm going to have 4 different tiers to rank these left wingers in. Starting at the bottom tier being decent, then to great, then to superstar, and then the top tier that being generational. And I was going to do 5, but to be honest, there wasn't that many left wingers in this random tier maker I found, so we're going to have just 4 tiers for today's video, but I think that will do just fine. Now here we have our contestants. These are the 19 players, or I guess left wingers, that will rank in today's NHL tier list. Now, this tier list was a little bit weird because there was Sebastian Aho and he's a center, so I don't know if some of these players might be right wingers or vice versa. You guys can let me know down in the comments, but if there's any left winger who you think should be in this tier list, let me know down in the comments down below and I'll let you guys know my full opinions and full thoughts on them. Now in the past couple of tier list videos, I've mostly gone on a 1-year sample size, and some people that didn't actually hear that got a little bit mad at my rankings. So for today's tier list, I'm going to go on a 3-year sample size, judging all these players on their last 3 years of their careers. Some of these players haven't played 3 full years, but we're going to have to make the best of what we got. Now starting for today's tier list, going into the decent tier, for my first and only player in the decent tier, I have Clayton Keller. Now, I want to say this, that I love Clayton Keller. Ever since his draft year, ever since his rookie year, I have liked what he's done. But I just can't really justify having him in the great tier, the superstar, or any of the above when it comes to the other NHL players. And I had to really choose one guy. I think he's a great NHL player, but I had to choose one guy for the decent tier. That is Clayton Keller. To me, the consistency is a big issue, and again, that's been apparent throughout his whole NHL career. Now, starting in the great tier of NHL left wingers, I'm going to start out with Anders Lee. Of course, captain of the New York Islanders. He's had an impressive last couple of seasons, of course, the greatest season being that with John Tavares. When it comes to Anders Lee, though, he's a very solid NHL player. I don't see him as this elite left winger, but I see him as a very, very good one, obviously being in the great tier. When it comes to Lee, he has a ton of leadership, a ton of great captaincy experience, and with the New York Islanders, one of their main point producers. For my second player going into the great tier, I have Mike Hoffman of the Florida Panthers. Now, Mike Hoffman had a very impressive, but also not impressive year of the Florida Panthers. He broke the point streak for Florida Panthers players, which is amazing. Had just a great year overall points-wise, but it was definitely helped by how many power play points he got. And I like getting power play points. I think that's a good strength for an NHL player, but Hoffman it was almost every single time was on the power play. And I think when it comes to him, he's that power play specialist. And I think if he does specialize in that, that's completely fine. But I don't want to see that he's this elite player because guys like Alexander Barkov, Vincent Trocheck, the guys that he has around him are also amazing and definitely do help him out a bit. Moving on to my third player in the great tier, I have San Jose Sharks' own Evander Kane. Now, Evander Kane this past season was kind of weird with San Jose. Was also producing, but not at the greatest level. He's getting paid a lot of money at $7 million, so I think there's a great expectation on him, but I think he's a solid top 6 guy, and for San Jose is a solid piece. He's not this elite player by any means, but I think definitely a great one. And Evander Kane has had some troubles in the past, troubles that I personally don't like, but on the ice as an offensive player, he's just pretty good. Moving on to one of my favorite players in the NHL, and for my 4th player in the great tier, I have one of my boys, Rickard Rakell of the Anaheim Ducks. Now, Rickard Rakell, I think, has an interesting past couple of seasons. He had a lethal season 2 seasons ago, and this past season, while he wasn't completely healthy, when he was healthy, it still was not the greatest. This next season, I think he could break out big as Anaheim maybe gets bigger and better offensive options, but when it comes to him, I've always loved him. He's done so much for the Anaheim community, and ever since his rookie year, honestly, I've just fell in love with his play style and him off the ice too. And right now, when it comes to Rickard Rakell, while I can't justify putting him in the superstar tier, I hopefully will see him in the next couple of years reach that superstar tier because I think he can definitely reach that. Moving on to the fifth player in the great tier, I have Kyle Connor of the Winnipeg Jets. Now, Kyle Connor to me is a underrated player, but still very, very good. And I think a lot of people do realize that right now. He has a ton of point-producing totals in the past couple of years. With Winnipeg has done so good, even in strength and on the power play. His expected goals are not the greatest, so that obviously factors into it. But right now, Kyle Connor, how young he is and how good he is already, will put him up the trajectory to get to that superstar tier. Moving on to my sixth player and my next left winger, I have Jason Zucker in the great tier. For the Minnesota Wild, of course. When it comes to Jason Zucker, it's like he's been traded 1,000 times at this point, somehow still in the Minnesota Wild, which again just boggles my mind after what's happened. But when it comes to Jason Zucker, he's an excellent human off the ice, won the humanitarian award at the NHL Awards. He's an amazing human being that's done so much for the Minnesota community, and they want to trade him for some reason, even though he's fantastic offensively and has been that way for the past few years. I think, again, his impact is very underrated. I think a lot of people know he's a good player, but I don't think a lot of people really know that he's this elite player that, for the Minnesota Wild, is likely their best player right now. For my seventh player, going into the great tier for my next left winger, I have Max Pacioretty of the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, as a Vegas Golden Knights fan, I think he was pretty close to the superstar tier, but again, this past season just did not really work out to the best of his abilities. I think there's more for Max Pacioretty to really give, especially next season when healthy, but that is a big factor there. He has to stay healthy and stay good. But when it comes to Max Pacioretty, he's been just a goal-scoring machine in the past 10 years, just being absolutely fantastic with the Montreal Canadiens. And if he can carry that over to Vegas, he could definitely be in the superstar tier. Moving on to the eighth left winger in the great tier, I am my favorite player of all time, Dallas Stars' own Jamie Benn. Now, when it comes to Jamie Benn, I love him. He's my favorite player, obviously, ever in hockey. But I'm not going to say that he's this superstar anymore, because to me, offensively, he's not that. But he's a leader for Dallas. He's a captain in Dallas. He's solid defensively, has great physical attributes. And of course, you got the rare occasion where he actually fights someone, which is always great to watch. But offensively, I don't see him as this amazing player anymore. He didn't put up great numbers this past season with Dallas. Offensively, again, I think he's a great player, just not that elite player that some people might think he still is. Moving on to the next player in the great tier, I have Mikko Rantanen of the Colorado Avalanche. Now, some of you guys know if you watch the channel for a while, I'm not the biggest fan of Mikko Rantanen, but he has a great personality. I think he's a skilled player, a decent and solid good player for the Colorado Avalanche, but not this elite player that a lot of people think he is. Now, he had minus expected goals percentage, had a below average expected goals, and when it comes to Mikko Rantanen, I think he has a ton of skill, and that's apparent. He has that, and he shows that. But I think he has chemistry with Nathan MacKinnon. I think Nathan MacKinnon gives him a lot of leeway, and frankly helps him out quite a bit. And I think a lot of people look at the points when it comes to Mikko Rantanen, and that's fine, but when judging Mikko Rantanen, I think you have to look more at the points besides that. So you gotta look at other stuff. And again, expected goals is a big reason towards that. I think he's a good and great player, obviously being in the great tier, but to me, not that elite player. That elite player and generational player is Nathan MacKinnon. Moving on to the 10th and final player in the left wing great tier, I have Jaden Schwartz of the Stanley Cup champions St. Louis Blues. And Jaden Schwartz has been a very solid player for a long time with St. Louis. These past season had a very solid year, and in the playoffs was great as well. Got a lot of clutch goals versus teams like Winnipeg, and then on to teams like San Jose. He just had a very solid and so far great NHL career. I don't think he's ever going to be this elite NHL player, but always just really good. Which for St. Louis and this past season obviously worked out. Finally getting into the superstar tier. And for my first player in the superstar tier, I have Taylor Hall of the New Jersey Devils. Now, again, going off last season only, it wasn't the most successful season. Obviously, he was injured and the Devils didn't end up making the playoffs. But in the past 3 years, just in total, he's been absolutely dynamic for the New Jersey Devils, winning the MVP, being an absolute stud that year. And just in general, Taylor Hall, one of the best left wingers in the league right now. I definitely think so. Has a ton of talent, and obviously will show that for New Jersey, hopefully next season. Moving on to my second player in the superstar tier, I am happy to put one of my boys, the Breadman, Artemi Panarin. And I've liked Artemi Panarin ever since his days in Chicago. And when you're a Chicago player that I like, That's a pretty good accomplishment, and Tim Panarin was that on the start. And obviously going to Columbus, he had a couple of great years there, becoming, I think, a slowly developing star. And now the New York Rangers, I mean, he's one of the best, not just left wingers in the league, but one of the best players in the league, offensively one of the most valuable players. And for the New York Rangers, they'll obviously get their due. Moving on to my third player in the superstar tier, I got Hubie-Dooby-Doo, Jonathan Huberdeau. Of the Florida Panthers, of course, Huberdeau had an excellent season this past season. And the year before that, it was a little bit banged up. Not the greatest stats in the world, but this past season, to me, he proved himself as one of the superstars in the NHL. Maybe not by namesake, because I don't think a lot of people really mention Huberdeau, obviously being on the Florida Panthers. But I think when it comes to superstar caliber players, Huberdeau is definitely on that. And while it was a little bit more of a borderline pick for me, I don't think he's this clear-cut superstar. I think he's a very, very good NHL player that right now goes in superstar tier. Moving on to my fourth player in the superstar tier, I got short but big man Alex DeBrincat. Now when it comes to Alex DeBrincat, ever since his draft year, I've always liked his play style. Being a tinier player and just being an overall offensive dynamo. I always liked what he could bring in the NHL, and obviously being Connor McDavid's line mate gave him a lot of experience of playing with elite players, but now with Chicago is proving a lot of different people wrong. A lot of people back in his draft year said he's too short to make the NHL, he can't do it, he's not good enough, and Alex DeBrincat has proved every single one of those doubters wrong, and thankfully so. Being with Team USA, being an absolute stud, I like to see it. Moving on to my fifth player in the superstar tier, and the only Nashville Predator in my tier list, that being Filip Forsberg. Now, Filip Forsberg, ever since his rookie year, has been absolutely amazing offensively, and nobody can really prove that wrong because he's always been good offensively. The health and consistency has been a little bit of an issue for him the past couple of years, but without that, when he's good on his game, he is one of the most important players for the Nashville Predators. I still remember the day that Washington traded him to Nashville for Martin Erat. Obviously, a fantastic trade for the Nashville Predators, and an amazing one for Filip Forsberg, but lesser so for the Washington Capitals. Moving on to my sixth player in the superstar tier, I have Calgary Flames star Johnny Gaudreau. And when it comes to Johnny Gaudreau, he had a lot of the same doubters that Alex DeBrincat had back in the 2010 draft. He went in the 4th round, and I don't think a lot of people remember how late of a pick he really was. He just proved all the doubters wrong, and fairly quickly too, made the NHL a lot quicker than a lot of people expected, and just went on from there. Just got better and better, and right now is in the prime of his career, having a really good breakout year, solidifying himself as one of the best wingers and overall players in the NHL. Moving on to my 7th player in the superstar tier, I got the controversial one, the Rat, Brad Marchand. And when it comes to his overall play on the ice, obviously when he's not licking people, he's a pretty good player, and offensively he does bring that. We've seen that in the past couple of years, how good an offense for the Boston Bruins, how good of an impact he's had on the offensive side. And again, scoring 100 points this past season is a big, big reason why Boston was so good, especially in the regular season. And defensively, there is some to be desired there, but he doesn't need that really. The offense is so good, and the tactics that he uses get under the skin of everybody, that I think it just works. I used to hate Brad Marchand with a living passion, and I think everybody still does, but I kind of respect him a little bit more for what he's done. He hasn't done as many egregious stuff in the past year, at least not as many egregious stuff, and to me, how he's able to get under the skin of everybody is almost a work of art. Now moving on to the generational tier, and I have one player left in the generational tier, one left winger left in this tier list. And when it comes to this player has been so good for so long, so quite frankly generational for so long, that having him in the generational tier list just makes sense. And for me, that one generational player is the Great 8 Alex Ovechkin, the only one in the generational tier, but quite frankly deserving. And at this point, I still think Alex Ovechkin is the best left winger in the league for how he provides offense for the Washington Capitals, how he's quite frankly gotten better overall as a player. I think he's just solidified himself as one of the best, if not the best goal scorer of all time. And again, trying to catch Wayne Gretzky for any point record or anything is still miraculous. He's still scoring goals to this point, right now scoring almost as many goals as the prime of his career, and the Great 8 is as good as he's ever been, especially after winning the Stanley Cup. And here you have it. This is my complete tier list from generational all the way down to decent. For the people that probably skipped the video and got here, I probably should put like a different tier list just to mess with them, but I'll just do that for a different episode. But again, I'm going on a 3-year sample size for this tier list, making it a little bit more different from the last one, so you'll see that throughout the tier list. You got one generational player, one player in decent, and basically everybody else in between. Now, even without the tier list, I want to share with you guys my top 10 left wingers right now in the NHL. Starting at number 10, I have Tomas Tatar of the Montreal Canadiens. Number 9, I have Jonathan Huberdeau of the Florida Panthers. At number 8, I have Philip Forsberg of the Predators. At number 7, I have Jake Gensel of the Penguins. At number 6, I have Matthew Tkachuk of the Flames. At number 5, I have Brad Marchand of the Bruins. At number 4, I have Johnny Gaudreau of the Flames. At number 3, I have Artemi Panarin of the New York Rangers. At number 2, I have Taylor Hall of the New Jersey Devils. And at number 1, my best left winger in the league right now, I have Alex Ovechkin. But of course, with my entire tier list for left wingers, I need to hear your guys' thoughts down those comments down below. So let me know what you think about my left wing tier list, what you agree with, what you disagree with, let me know. And of course, the question to you, who do you think are the best left wingers right now in the NHL? But if you guys want some more Grav videos just like this one, you can click on this card right here to watch my playlist on all of my NHL and hockey rankings. Trust me, it's a good playlist. You'll want to click it. But that'll be it for today, guys. If you guys did enjoy, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell if you haven't already. Again, comment down below your thoughts on my tier list, what you agree with, what you disagree with. Share with your friends if you haven't already, trying to grow the Grav gang as much as possible. I'm Nathan, and I'll see you guys in the next video or stream. Goodbye.